So in this video, I want to talk to you about how to actually perform a questionnaire or a survey for research. So if you don't know me, I am Dr. Dave Maslach, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There are so many people that help me out that I wanted to pay the favor for to help you out. So I created this sort of sharing economy editing platform. You could check that out and go buy some credits on there. It does really help out with the effort for this project. And as well, I've got this really big blog now, or we're building out a huge blog with a couple of great writers that are participating on it. So now let's jump to this video. How do you actually perform a questionnaire or how do you actually develop one of these questionnaires? So the key thing when you are doing a questionnaire, and so actually I should qualify here that this video is really geared towards people that are doing research, whether they are in graduate school, doing a master's program, or maybe a senior level undergraduate program or a PhD, but it's anybody that's doing research, so it's broadly applicable. So with that, how do you actually perform a questionnaire or a survey? What are you going to do? I'm going to tell you up front, and I think most research will tell you this, is that the goal is really just when you create a survey or a questionnaire, is just really to answer a specific research question. Now you can answer multiple research questions, and often research encourages you to do that, is try to get as many research questions in there by having a rich survey. But what you're really doing is targeting kind of a theme within there that you're trying to answer some research question. And so you don't want to go really crazy with it and have all sorts of information in there. That's just not going to be a fruitful use of your time in any sort of way with this. So what I want to do is take more practical tips, I guess, and how to actually do surveys that a lot of us would probably need to know. And if you don't know this, it would probably be really helpful for you in terms of doing this. So, with the questionnaires, when you're developing a questionnaire, really what you're looking for is developing the questionnaire related to certain constructs with your research question. So this is where you're going to have to spend a lot of time up front. In fact, people that do great research are going to spend a large chunk of their time sort of thinking about what they're trying to do research on up front, right? So the best advice that I can suggest to you is to do all of that theory building and all that kind of stuff that I talk about on this channel up front. And then, first things first is try to look for validated constructs that are already available or scales that are already available within the related domain. That's going to just save you so much time and effort. I'm not going to get into construct validation or anything like that in this video. Maybe I will in the future, but you really need to look for things that are already validated just to save your time. So spend a week, spend 2 weeks looking, at least once you're done all of this sort of theory building and all that stuff, really spend the time to look for related constructs. There's all sorts of things out there that you can look for. And, I'm not going to tell you to go to this book or that book or not, because everybody has different areas. But I'm just going to suggest go into Google Scholar. It's amazing. You can do all sorts of stuff in there in terms of getting this information. That's really what you're looking for, is validated constructs. And so you also want to make sure when they're validated that they are well done from great journals. Some stuff is validated, some research is validated, and it's just poorly done. And so really take that time to find good research to really rely upon in terms of the scales or constructs that you're looking for. So I'm assuming you know all of this kind of stuff at this moment in terms of what a construct is and scales and things like that. So, the other thing is to really emphasize before you do any sort of research, be painfully aware that you should get ethics approval or IRB approval. I do have a video on that you can watch, but really you want to make sure that you're doing everything right. In this day and age, you need to protect yourself legally, you need to protect your university or your institution or your organization legally. Just really take the right steps with that going forward. It's just going to save you a ton of time in terms of doing all of this. And if you didn't do it, you're doing it retroactively. Often you have to throw out that data and restart. So with that, what you're aiming for with this survey is making sure that it's painfully simple in terms of people will actually complete this stuff. So each question should be really short, really to the point. There really shouldn't be any sort of double barrel questions in any sort of way. Where it's so double barrel is where you group two ideas together in the items that you have, the questions that you have. It should be just really straightforward and really take that time where it's just boring and really simple, that a sixth grader is going to be able to understand what you're trying to do and what you're trying to ask. And the more that you do that, the better off you're going to get with your results. Really focus on that and focus on making sure it's simple. The logic is there. It's just, basically go back to thinking about when you're constructing sentences. Is there a noun? Is there a verb? And that's it, right? Like, don't make anything pretty in any sort of way with that. The other thing is to really worry if your survey is taking more than 10 minutes, or you expect it to take more than 10 minutes long, unless there's a specific reason why you're trying to do that. But, for most of us in this day and age, everybody's online. We're bombarded by information. I get asked all the time from marketers, as well as universities, to complete different surveys and stuff. And I couldn't care less, for the most part. And so nobody cares about, so you need to assume that going into when you're doing this is nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your survey. Nobody cares about you. It's just going to be the fact of it. If you get that in your mind, you're going to be in a better state of mind to actually do the things that you need to do in order to actually get a good survey. It's really nobody cares. No, absolutely nobody cares about what you're trying to do. So imagine, so this is like the fifth point that I want to point out is, imagine you're kind of a marketer. And so you have to think about, how are you going to entice people to participate in your survey? By default, people aren't going to care, and it's getting worse because we're getting marketed to a lot more. So think about ways that marketers actually entice you to do things, and don't do sort of spammy things. The spammy things they're just not going to work. They really aren't. You might trick some people to do things, but they're not going to work in the long run in terms of getting a large sample size. So you have to really think about, how am I going to actually get people to participate, and what are the ways that I actually build the relationships with other people, right? So that's an important thing to think about, is how do you actually build relationships in the real world? So I'm going to do a video next, after this in a few more days, about increasing response rates, but really you're looking for, how do you actually entice people to participate on your survey? Because nobody cares. You're going to be upfront. No, really, nobody cares. And the other thing that you have to remember is, and I think most of us get this mixed up, and this was kind of a realization to me many years ago in graduate school, but surveys are about intent. They are not measuring behaviors in any sort of way. They're not measuring like the real things that people do. It's about what they believe, or what they want you to believe that they're doing. So there's this great sort of concept that economists have. And that's why I kind of, I like some of the stuff that economists do, but they can't get on some of the sort of intent stuff. But, they have this idea of sort of revealed preferences. And this is where people are going to tell you what they like to hear, what you like to hear up front. There's all sorts of social desirability biases and sort of biases and stuff in terms of getting people what they want you to hear. But what you need to look at is their behaviors. And their behaviors are revealing to you what they are really intending, or what their preferences are in the long run. So people are always going to talk a big game. Until you get somebody, so to imagine again, you're a marketer, until you get somebody to pay for the thing that you're doing, people are full of BS. And so you have to think about the same way, right? So how do you get people to do things, and they might tell you that they're going to do things, but everything out, they might say something, but everything points to the fact if they haven't done that thing or there's no way that they're going to do that thing, I mean, they're just full of it. So you have to be well aware that the intentions that people have or they rate about in a survey is not at all about behaviors that they're actually doing. That's one of the, it could be a really good blessing with a survey, depending on what you're measuring, or it's a fatal flaw for a lot of sort of survey research. It's because it's really about intent. It has nothing to do about, or people's beliefs, or, you know, it's about that. It's not about behavior in any sort of way. The other thing to remember when you're doing surveys is really spend the time up front piloting it, making sure it, recirculating it with family and friends many times, just making sure that it is really simple and that anybody can do this, basically from a 6th grade level up, can actually do this survey and understand what you're trying to do. Because, you know, people have different, you know, especially if you're trying to survey high demand people or people that are in high demand, maybe an athlete, you know, maybe CEOs or something along those lines that you're trying to get a hold of, or just anybody. You know, if you're trying to survey, you know, 21-year-olds, they don't care, and they are going to default to that. And if it's not straightforward, they are going to just answer really as quickly as they possibly can. And so they are going to not really think about these things. So you have to get to the point where they can sort of register and process this stuff, that they'll actually do this very quickly, right? So a great resource that I'd recommend for you to do if you don't know about it is go check out Dillman's book. It's kind of the Bible in social sciences in terms of doing surveys. It's really well done. It's very simple, and you can learn a lot about doing surveys. So that's what I want to talk about here, and then I'll get into response rate and things like that in the next video. So take care, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.